Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Advocacy Academy at Teachers College. I am delighted to be able to welcome you here today as one of the organizers for this event. I'd like to thank all of you, the students, alumni, faculty, staff, and community members for your presence at such a wonderful and timely event. I would also like to thank the people involved in bringing this event to life. Hani Walren for helping conceptualize this event, as well as the different Teachers College sponsors, including Government Relations, Graduate Student Life and Development, the for Diversity and Community Affairs, and the Student Senate. My name is Joey Uy, and I am an associate in Teachers College Office of Government Relations, as well as a second-year master's student in the International Educational Development Program. My journey of advocating for myself and for others has been a rocky one. As a queer, non-conforming, immigrant, Asian, and first-generation college student, navigating my identity has always been the topic of fierce debate. Growing up, I've always surrendered to my inner saboteur, always telling me that I needed to blend in to survive. However, taking part in yesterday's workshops was a reminder to embrace the power of my identity and not see them as a hindrance. If I can start accepting myself for who I am and start advocating for myself, I will be able to support others in their journey. Advocating with others during a pandemic is an absolute challenge, and it is a known fact that one cannot advocate alone. Yesterday, participants said that they're driven to advocate for their students, that they're looking forward to narrowing down their policy priorities and actions, and hope to be a better advocate for silenced voices. Today, we'll advocate externally by taking action with facilitators and co-participants and understanding how you can advocate with your communities. Events like this are pivotal for advocacy efforts because it will give you the opportunity to learn, reflect, and listen to others' stories with the hope of leaving the workshops connected with someone who shares the same interests. For today, you can engage with any of today's workshops at any time using the same Zoom link that you're using now. Today's event is packed with some of TC's brightest voices, with some New York State Assembly members, and even with US Congresspeople. I strongly encourage you all to listen to their stories, and they'll listen to you. Engage with their sessions, connect with one another, and take action to advocate for a smarter, sustainable, and more equitable world. I also encourage you all to sign up for our monthly interest groups, where you can further connect with other advocates and activists, and also have an opportunity to workshop your ideas. You can go to tc.edu/advocacy to sign up. Before we begin, we did want to get a sense of what your intentions are from our 2 days together. First, we have a survey for you to complete. Please complete this after the workshop is over today to reflect on your experience. Your input will make future advocacy academies better. Second, we'll be bringing up a Mentimeter. Right now, please go on menti.com and enter the code displayed on the screen. And it should be the code 87924524. Okay, the first question is, what do you want to accomplish today? Feel free to write or brainstorm. Just write down a few words or sentences, and we'll be going along. I see here learning from the speakers. That's great. Learning how to be a better advocate. Yes, the whole premise of our program today. Learning more about advocating for national policy. Amazing. Changing legislation for the better. That's also a great word. Getting to know more about our representatives. You will definitely get to know them today as they are our facilitators. Continue to learn and unlearn from our amazing speakers. I like that, learning and unlearning. How to cultivate and build upon the power of communities. Wow, you all have such great responses. Amazing. More ways by which I can advocate. Awesome. All right, let's move on to the next question. What is your story? Feel free to just rapid fire in response, and I'll Mention some of them out. Don't be shy, y'all. Privileged. Okay. That's a great question. What do you mean by your story? That could be what's your background? Where do you come from? What's your identity? So I see a few more responses. Realize life is short. Okay. Fortunate and wanting to give back. Great. All right, let's move on to the third question. What do you hope to learn? Hopefully something new. Yes. I also hope I can learn something new as well. How to advocate for myself and others, how to really listen. Great. What's within my locus of influence. Great. How to combat misinformation. Amazing. Well, these are all really great answers, and I thank you all so much for just having this warm up with us today. Now, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker for this session, Dr. Rahsaan Harris. Dr. Harris has more than 20 years of experience leading nonprofits and international grant making, partnering with communities to make local investments and promote community improvement. He is a transformative leader and role model who has been a New York City public school teacher, board member of various Harlem-based organizations, devoted Big Brothers Big Sister mentor, and Peace Corps environmental education volunteer in South America. He received his doctorate in public and urban policy from the New School, where his dissertation was on understanding how socioeconomic diversity in the African American community affects their philanthropic interests. He also holds a master's in management and high school science education from New York University and Teachers College, Columbia University, respectively, and a Bachelor of Arts from Princeton University. Please join me in welcoming for our keynote address, Dr. Rahsaan Harris.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Advocacy Academy. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Teachers College. Hey, Ma, look, I made it. I can't believe Teachers College would not find it robbery to allow me to talk to you. So why me? First and foremost, I'd love to introduce myself. I am Dr. Rahsaan Harris, my pronouns he, his, along that line. I am a Black man up from just former enslavement in the United States of America. And for those visually impaired, medium brown skin, and I'm in a scene that is very Citizens Committee blue behind me. I'm here in Harlem, and I'm on Lenape land, I've learned, and but I'm a Jersey boy born and bred, but my parents actually were originally both born in Harlem. So why me? Like, why am I talking to you? I want you to get your learning goals. So I'm gonna give you one right now. Everybody can make a difference, and there is money available for New Yorkers with ideas that want to make a difference. So if you learn nothing else, go to citizensnyc.org. You'll see our grant making. You'll see when our application opens, and you could be eligible working in community with folks in New York City to improve a neighborhood by putting an idea forward, improving a community garden, getting out advocating for folks to sign up to vote, creating circles where immigrant mothers from a different country can advocate for one another and fight against gender discrimination. All of these ideas are additive and can build and make a better New York City. And when we aggregate all of these little actions together, those are forces for change. And I'm excited that as the CEO of Teachers College, wow, as the CEO of Citizens Committee, I get a chance to bring those opportunities to New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, regardless of where they're from, regardless of whether they came from money or from our community level folks that come from meager means, but everybody has a hand in making sure that New York City is great and that's representative of all people. And we support that with micro grants, and we give folks access to a community of folks that are change makers to change New York City. So that's your learning for today. You can go to the website and figure it out. But another reason why I'm talking to you is because, I'm a son of TC. Teachers College helped start me on my journey, and I would not be the CEO of Citizens Committee if it weren't for Teachers College. I was a Peace Corps volunteer and on my way to be a doctor, a medical doctor, not a PhD in public and urban policy. And I decided that I wanted to be closer to folks by understanding people's like hearts and minds and their dreams and aspirations, and be part of helping them in that journey to improve themselves and make the world a better place. That there's no better place to do that than in teaching and education. And the Peace Corps had a return volunteers program that said, when you get back, you can go to Teachers College, Columbia, and also teach at New York City Public Schools at the same time. And that started me on a journey where I better understood community. I was able to use the Spanish that I learned in Uruguay in the Peace Corps. And I got a chance to figure out what advocacy looks like on a community level. I think it's really important, number one, to recognize folks who are in your community and folks who are so important to you. So a little bit more about Citizens Committee. It was founded in 1975 during crisis. There was a fiscal crisis in the city, and folks were wondering who was going to come save us. The federal government wasn't coming to save the city. And volunteers, folks on their own volition, came together and said, you know what, we can make a difference. Block by block, either picking up a broom, checking in on my neighbor, or advocating for economic opportunities for others. And that back in 1975 led to a long tradition of our organization that gives out micro grants. And I want to let you know that it's not just me, it's my colleagues. If you go to the website and look at our staff page, you'll see Scott and Paige and Leslie and Trisha and Dee and Carolyn and Sarah and many others that are just like you, that have a diverse set of skills, that are using their stories and their talents to help others and to help New York City. So anything's possible working in teams. Everything's possible if you sit with yourself. What a moment to lead Citizens Committee, and what a moment to witness the scenes that are happening in the streets of New York City during the pandemic, during the racial reconciliation that happened while we were forced to watch it in the pandemic, during natural disasters like Ida that let us know that climate change is real. And one of the things that I wanted to use my time really briefly to highlight, and I'd love to get to questions, I definitely want this to be interactive, is that you advocate by giving voice to issues. And what better way to give a voice to an issue is to tell stories. I have thousands of stories as past grants that Citizens Committee has given out. I have stories that are my own. And I think you are the best advocate when you can understand how to authentically tell stories yourself. Storytelling is a great way to teach. Storytelling is a great way to advocate. Storytelling is a great way to communicate and influence culture. So great. We got stories, but what do you do with the stories? Well, first and foremost, in order to tell a good story, you have to sit with yourself and be observant. So for the brief time that I have, I want to talk about authenticity and advocacy. When you are your authentic self, that can make you the best advocate. So advocacy begins with authenticity. I started at Citizens Committee. The first day that I started was March 16th, 2020. So it was the day that New York City shut down because of the pandemic. I was also the first African-American CEO of the organization. And so all of this turbulence and all of these things are happening around me. the staff that I named, I've never sat in an office 9 to 5 with them in our work. We've done everything virtually. I'm making all these new relationships with funders and folks that are asking for funding and local politicians and everything in between, as a newbie to this position and in a form that was different than what came before me. So I really needed to sit in authentically who I was, the community I came from, to be able to tell stories of what's happening in New York City in a way that resonated with me. And so that meant looking at the disparate effects of COVID across New York City and understanding, breaking data out by diversity metrics, looking at race and ethnicity and socioeconomic status mattered, and how we can think about making a response and then giving voice to those stories so that those folks weren't invisible. So authentically being myself and showing up with what I understood from where I came from was really important. When George Floyd was murdered, really giving voice to understanding the salience of race and helping folks see each other in ways where they saw past each other, because it's almost offensive to recognize that you are different, but recognizing our differences are our strength and bringing that into the work and speaking to it, not in a way to create division, but in a way to create another story so that folks can see how your story connects to their story. And then in that humanity that we can create a better future for everybody together. So authenticity leads to great advocacy. Authenticity, as I've been telling in some of these stories, is grounded in identity. So take that time to sit with yourself, wrestle with all the parts that made you. Some parts of you might be celebrated in a larger culture. Some other parts might have had difficulties in the predominant culture. All of it is part of the beautiful struggle for us to get to understanding of ourselves and figuring out how we can all come together. Recognizing where privilege resides, also recognizing where some places we feel insecure and that we might need to work on. We're figuring out where we need to find allies is extremely important. So grounding your authenticity in your identity is a great tool for finding your voice and being able to be a great storyteller. And lastly, advocacy, and you have your story, you're authentic. It's really about amplifying voices and affirming all the identities, and how while we affirm everyone's humanity, that we are stronger together. I've spoken before, and what sometimes expresses itself as, I jokingly coined the oppression Olympics. Well, my group is being discriminated against, but I see you're being discriminated, but which one's worse? We all need to find ways to recognize that we all are better when we advocate for one another. And if all of our hearts are joined in telling our stories and understanding our comic stories and advocating for our common humanity, that we can all make a difference and we can get to heights that we would never get to alone. Ubuntu is, one of those African proverbs is, I am because we are. So understanding who you are and then understanding how who you are connects to a larger community is a wonderful thing that I would like to make sure that we unleash that power on New York City. And what better community to do that than our teachers, who are shepherding the hearts, the minds of young people and older people, and helping folks stretch themselves beyond their comfort zone, but to get to new skills that can make a difference. So I would love to take specific questions from anyone. Again, I learned all this stuff from a journey that started from Teachers College. My ecology and evolutionary biology degree has nothing to do with my PhD in urban and public policy, but it's a journey that everyone can go on once you tap into what's inside of you.
I'll moderate questions from the audience. So we'd love to take questions that you put into the chat over the next few minutes as we're getting started with that. Again, thank you. That was really powerful at how you built up this idea of grounding your authenticity and your identity, which is what we explored a lot yesterday about your identity. So and then of course the importance of storytelling, which is our next workshop. So, Rahsaan, are there any stories that you've heard in the last several months that you would want to amplify? You know, something that was particularly moving to you of the communities that you work with?
Yeah, one of the things we did literally last week with Ida was we recognized that there's an untold story. You know, you think of New York City, yes, there was Sandy, but you don't think of New York City as New Orleans. You don't think of New York City as being in a path like Miami would be, or in Charleston, South Carolina. But because of the crumbling infrastructure, because of the different ways we live, folks are suffering. So there's stories of, one story I have is one of my colleagues lost power, lost water, and all the cars that were in her garage were shunted to one side of the garage and all sustained damage. So you're talking about basic needs of being able to get electricity and access to like hot water. And then you're also talking about claims of like your transportation in your car, you don't have access to it. And how do you regain how do you gain access to that transportation? And so we recognize that we needed to spring into action. So we put out a survey across New York City. We've gotten over 200 responses from our different grantee partners, and we're collecting all of their stories about how the flood affected them. And we want to deliver those to local elected officials across the 5 boroughs so that we know how we can help people now, but also how to prepare for the future. How our crumbling infrastructure needs to be improved. How do we make sure that as we improve our crumbling infrastructure, how we can provide jobs in communities so folks are also not just beneficiaries of the solution, but part of the solution themselves. And so I'm just really excited that being able to amplify all the things that are happening. One other point specifically, there was a lot of death in New York City. There was a lot of loss. And for some of us who are fortunate enough to work through Zoom or to go to other places, you weren't steeped in it. And being able to amplify that the disparities are real, and sometimes you need to really sit in that discomfort and find those stories, that's where you can start making a difference.
That's really powerful. Yeah, I think a lot of the meditative process has a lot to do with sitting discomfort, like literally feeling uncomfortable and then seeing what kind of unfolds from there and really getting a sense of what's on our mind. So folks, please continue to add questions in the chat. We have one here from Dr. Stephanie McGinsey, who asks, I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts about how we can measure authentic engagement of advocates, especially when engaging those who have lived experience.
So great question and great to see you, Stephanie. One of the things about measuring your impact, there are a lot of different ways to measure impact, but one of the things I'd like to say is sometimes the sight test, the smell test, the Malcolm Gladwell blink, does it feel right, lets you know. So when you're looking at advocacy and you look at the people who are the messengers and who's telling the stories and what stories are being lifted up, are there diverse perspectives that are coming to a collective together? Or is just one group of people that fit a certain profile telling the story, advocating on all others? And so if they're talking about inclusion, but it's not completely inclusive, then you know we're all, we have sinned and fall short of perfection, but you know where they need to go to improve. And so advocacy that is not inclusive, you know it when you see it, and you always try to do a personal audit of who's in the room and who's not in the room, and that will let you know how inclusive that advocacy is.
Yeah, thank you for that. Another question from Samantha Alcala, who asks, thank you for sharing your story and reminding us of ours. When you encourage us to deliver the stories to elected officials, what format works best, or should it be a mix of multiple formats, especially during the pandemic?
No, for sure. Geeking out on being a former doctoral student, mixed methodology. I believe in quant. I believe in looking at the numbers and being able to show graphs and numbers, but qualitatively going deeper in stories and narrative that you think are representative of larger phenomena that are going on in the background. So it's both and. People relate looking in the folks' eyes, and I think that's one of the things we've lost sometimes in being socially distanced. Telling stories face to face, and telling a great story that is succinct and you know your point is fantastic. And if it's not just your unique unicorn story, but it can really extrapolate to others, so powerful. But also the data matter, and being able to show the numbers disproportionately during the pandemic. People of color, Black and brown, were dying more. That carries weight. So it's a both and.
Great. And we have time for one more question. I see one from Karina, who asks, would you happen to have a favorite faculty member, book, or course that still impacts the way you do your advocacy work today?
Great question. So I will have to get back to Matt specifically on it, but I've just been big into storytelling. There's a huge movement now in advocacy and in philanthropy talking about the narrative creation projects and how do folks tell stories, and also using opportunity language from the opportunity agenda, Google opportunityagenda.org. It tells folks how to use language that brings people in, but allows you to be your authentic self, and use storytelling because that impacts folks in rattling off tons of stats. If you just stats, that's not human stories. You need to be able to bring in, my coworker who went through what she went through in Ida, or one of my mentees that unfortunately passed away during COVID, not because of COVID, but left behind 3 sons and the mother of his children. When folks understand that those are real stories that are in Harlem, that are in the Bronx, Staten Island, Queens, and Brooklyn, then they can get behind it.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, mixed methods. I would totally agree. I represent Teachers College in city, state, and federal government. In full disclosure, I'm on the junior board of Citizens Committee. And mixed methods, quantitative, qualitative, I think would definitely be very relevant to this audience. So thank you so much, Rahsaan. We're going to head over to our next workshop. Really appreciate it. Let's give them a round of applause.